how to convert a Honda Nighthawk 1983 oil cooler to fit a Honda CB750 1978 to 1982 engine. As you can see here, this is the oil cooler, and this sandwich piece here, you first, to have it to fit flush with the engine, you need to cut a section out of here of the top fins. Basically I've cut around 5mm off here, and I'll explain further in the video why I've done that. Actually, it's to help it sit flush against the engine, which I'll show later. And also there's a hole which comes with this. I'm not sure what the hole was actually for on the Nighthawk, but I've blocked it off with a bolt and washers. I've put 2 lock nuts on this side to keep it secure, and I've put the nuts on the side which has the rubber seal, which will sit flush towards the engine face. As you can see on the other side, you've just got the back end of the bolt here. The reason I've put this bolt in is to stop oil getting through the hole and into the area where the oil filter sits, and it basically helps force the oil up through this pipe, through the grill, and then back down, and when it comes out this side, that will force the oil through the oil filter, and then once it's gone through the oil filter, it comes back through this centerpiece, which that houses on, and back into the engine. Also, you will need an extended bolt. The Honda CB750 1978 to 1982 engine oil filter bolt is this length, which houses into this, and then into this, which basically to help fit this sandwich piece, you need the extended bolt to make up for the extra width of this. And once you've ordered one of these bolts, I'll try and get the details for you and put it below the video. To help this sandwich piece fit tight and flush against the engine, you need to cut 4 to 5mm off this bolt, which has already been cut off. Actually, it was up to this length, so I've cut 5mm off there, but I've also had to put an extra 5mm thread on the bolt up here, and that helps tighten this on and this more securely to prevent any leakage. Now, once you've got your longer bolt, you get your spring. That's got to be housed in there. The oil filter goes on top. Then your bolt goes in there. As you can see, the bolt is now in place and protruding out of here. And here's the bolt through the filter housing and the oil cooler sandwich piece, and you can see protruding here this will go into this piece here, which houses into the engine. But before I put that on, I personally put this rubber ring on. It's your choice whether you want to put this ring on or not, but I use it as a precaution for an extra seal on here. You can either use this size or a thinner one if you wish. Right, the rubber ring is on there now, and then basically it's best to put this on while this is housed in the engine. I've only took this off for show purposes. As for this piece, which seats in the engine face, you will have to cut 4 to 5 millimeters off the fascia here. So basically it will go from this, and you trim this end off as described, 4 to 5 millimeters, and then it will look like this. And then obviously bolted into the engine fascia. This has to be cut off to help this piece sit flush against the engine, because this basically gets in the way of this lying flush, so it needs trimming. And that's because this is trimmed is another reason why you have to trim the centre bolt, like I mentioned earlier, and put the extra 4 to 5 mils cut off this end, then put an additional 4 to 5 mils of thread up the bolt, and that will help it sit flush. This is my spare engine. I've got this here to display how this piece, which you need to trim, places in here, and that's your center housing piece for the oil filter center bolt. And as mentioned earlier, you must trim 4 to 5 millimeters off to help it sit flush onto this fascia here to prevent any leakage. Right, as I mentioned earlier, you need to trim these top fins by at least 5 millimeters, and that is so it doesn't catch upon the fascia here, because this prevents lying flush. You also need to take away a bit of these fins here, 2 of the fins on each side, which you can mark up with a pencil, and that is to these side pipes lie flush, so it prevents any gaps or leakage, so it can lie flush. I can't get the camera in down there with the sandwich piece against the engine. Then once you have this piece assembled, you can't attach it to here. It might be a bit awkward at first for this centre bolt to get an initial grip into the centrepiece housed in here, but once you do get it threaded properly and tightened up, you know, it does the job basically. And where I mentioned earlier that this is where you have to trim the fins on the engine fascia for these pipes. I mean, because the metal pipes, so there's no like give, and it's so those can, you know, help this housing sit flush to prevent any leakage. I just mark these up with a pencil before trimming them. I basically placed this one here by hand and then penciled it up and just snapped them off with like some pliers and ball grips. Nothing fancy, but obviously once this is on you can't really see the snapped fins because the pipes are there. And obviously you need to make sure this centre piece is in line with the housing, and that stops the oil filter and oil cooler from spinning, which I'm sure you're aware of. And hopefully my instructions, I hope they've been good enough so you know how to go about converting Honda Nighthawk 1983 oil cooler to fit the Honda CB750 1978 to 1982 engine. Alright, just another note, if you do decide to go ahead and buy one of these oil coolers, I would make sure that it comes with this piece here, which is a seal which fits in here, seats in this, which helps seal this pipe. Because when I first put this on, mine didn't come with the seals and I didn't realise, and oil was leaking out of here, and you couldn't really tell until you started the engine and it would come squirting out, which is no good for anyone, to be honest. So make sure you get these seals. The Honda number for this one, there's two which are pretty much the same. That's the serial number, or you can get this one here as well. They're both the same seals, but just different types of metal, I think. But they both fit anyway. Another way to help cool the engine is the CB750 recommends the 1040 engine oil, whereas you can actually put a heavier oil. You can either get a 1050 or a 1550, which I've chosen here, or a 1060 or maybe a 1560, whichever you wish. But these heavier oils help lubricate the engine better, and help keep it cooler, and are designed for racing as well actually, and can help on wear and tear and fuel economy, and especially if you're based in like a warmer climate country. I'd say a heavier oil is recommended, especially in a warmer climate. But this 1550 seems fine even in England. So just another tip there.